This has been a long, contentious, difficult process. The responsibility for that, I think, probably rests with me. Because what we realized was that when we finally sat down and had lunch, and we finally sat down and had dinner, and talked to each other, we found there was far more things we agreed about than we disagreed with. And as mayor, I should have made that phone call, and I did not. And I apologize for that. Had we sat down first, I don't think, at least as far as Lancaster's involvement, that this litigation occurred at all. Because what we saw was, what I saw, and I haven't had the opportunity to sit with everyone, but I sat with Emmett, I sat with Jesse. I saw two godly men who really had the interest of this community as their primary purpose. And before I sat down with them, I didn't believe that at all. I thought something much different. And what we did is we painted each other as the devil in the press. We vilified each other. We created a painting that was abstract art at its best. Somebody, when we came in today, there was an artist down there, and I asked her what she meant by realism. So she told me what a realism painting was. That's not what we painted. We painted something that was totally abstract, different from what the truth is. But we didn't know that at the time. But at the end of the day, I think what has been forged from the heat of that disagreement is something that is going to benefit the entire Antelope Valley for many years to come.
I want to thank all the TCal members and the community for being here. This has been a long battle, a long struggle, but I think there is victory in this, in the sense that we were able to come together and finally realize that it is better to create dialogue rather than monologue. We have been in the press going back and forth on the issues, dealing with Section 8, dealing with issues of our community. And I think we've reached a point right now where we feel as though it's better as leaders of this community to create the perception and to create the reality that it's time for us to work together to address issues. And I appreciate the mayor indicating that, you know, his true feelings that in terms of how he perceived us. I think the feelings were reciprocal. And it's better when you're able to get down to the table and say, look, this is how I believe a particular issue ought to be addressed, and this is how I perceive it, and vice versa. And I think that's what happened in this particular situation, that we had more in common than we had in disagreement. Now, do we agree on everything? Clearly not. Will there be disagreements in the future? I'm sure there will be. But I think the step is to begin to work towards developing a dialogue with each other to say if an issue comes up in our community, this is how we're going to address it, and we won't allow particular issues or feelings to interfere with that process. Our community wants representation. Our community needs representation. And we believe that this is the first step in beginning that process. And perception is everything. I had a conversation with the mayor with the recent edict that the city council or the city issued regarding the issue with the mayor being concerned about the Bloods in our community, you know, and his concern about people wearing red t-shirts. And I explained to him how the African American community and how any young person might perceive that statement. And he understood where we were coming from and said, you know, that was not the perception that he was trying to convey. And I think we ought to be very careful in terms of how we communicate. I think that's a very key point in terms of what we're doing in our community. Communication is very key. And I think we're on the path now with this agreement to say, you know, we said what we said, what's in the past is in the past, and we're now moving towards the future. And I think we're going to be able to work in a productive way with the work group that we're going to establish in the next coming weeks.
I think there was something else that took place that was really binding in terms of the relationship of the community, and that is there were different facets of the community who had never worked together before for
Let Mike over a little.
Okay.
Channel 7, I guess. Channel 7. And Channel 7.
Okay. All right. Give me all the mics. No, I really believe that there were certain groups in our community who have been and had different diverse ideas on which strategy to take. I'd be less than candid if I didn't say we were guided along in a great deal by the quality and competency of the attorneys that we were dealing with. And at a certain point, they began to realize our desire had nothing to do with the monetary gain. It had nothing to do with notoriety. It had nothing to do with us being publicized and getting. What it had something to do with was our equal desire to see something positive and great come out of the community. I think that when our mayor mentioned the fact that we had villainized one another to the point where we probably thought we could not heal, it was a mistake, because we found out, as Jesse alluded to, that we had much more in common. We had an equal love of this community, and something that was said by the mayor also, we were guided by our faith. Our faith not in one another, but in something greater than all of us. And that was our spiritual connection to our Lord and Savior. That had a great deal to do with keeping us centered. I appreciate Farrell Mitchell and Stan Mohammed and Nigel Holly, who were the executive committee of TCal, and continually were there to make sure that we stayed bound with one another. For one, it was very important that we show him as much involvement and concern for what he was trying to accomplish as we could. And more important than anything, we felt at some point in time, this moment would come about, but we didn't think it would come about like this. And for that, I compliment my mayor. And like I told him, I haven't used the term "my mayor" since Bishop was mayor. I'm comfortable with that now. And I say that because that's part of our healing process. Thank you.
I would like to just say, Mr. Mayor, thank you for reaching out. I understand that this was a difficult road to hoe, but I also know that the people in Lancaster are good people, honest people, and deserving people. And you, as their representative, we may have had differences of opinions, but the end result is I knew we'd get to work together. The NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, has dedicated over 100 years in making things better for all individuals. Ever since the 1908 incident in Springfield, when a community of black people were uprooted and their homes burned. This is an example of what progress is. We're in the 21st century, and this century has led, and the city of Lancaster and the mayor has proven that together we'll make a difference together. And I am pleased to be here. I am honored that the mayor would hold this press conference. And even though there was a statement made about an apology in the paper, I can't offer that, but I can, again, offer a handshake to say that we are working on the same page.
I bring you greetings from the Board of Directors for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. As a national board member, I first of all would like to thank all of the individuals who are here locally, who have really worked and crafted an agreement that's in the best interest of this community here. Things like this work better when people in the community take charge, take time, and work through issues that are important to them. Mayors have responsibility for the whole community, and certainly their action comes from a point of being able to make his community, as a mayor, safe for everyone. The people, these nonprofit organizations, TCal, NAACP, is a voice for him. And it reached the point where he really reached out and listened to that voice of people. We certainly know that as this community grows and moves forward, there will be many other opportunities where he's going to have to reach out and work with this community. But the good news is he's agreed to do that. He set up a committee. He's willing to work with NAACP and other community groups to get an understanding of what his total community is all about. And we really appreciate his ability to be able to take those steps towards understanding the total community, black, brown, white, Asian, all people that make up this community. Because in fact, all people in the community is what's going to have this community grow, prosper, and with his help, be a well community that has a bright future ahead of you. So on behalf of the NAACP, we'd like to thank the mayor, we'd like to thank TCal, we'd like to thank the NAACP locally, Juan Blanco, all of those people that are a part of it, and we would like to thank all of you in hopes that this community continues to grow and prosper under this mayor and the leadership of these community groups. Thank you very much.
My brother is married to a beautiful Filipino young lady who they just had a beautiful young daughter. I have a cousin who's married to a young lady from Taiwan. I have another brother-in-law who's married to a young lady who's Caucasian. So we in our family have that diversity. We've had the blessing to be able to learn different cultures, different beliefs, different religions. What an honor to come from a family like that. So I am proud to be here today and give what I've been blessed to live in my family to our community. And today truly is history. And it's thanks to all of you, the leaders here. And we appreciate it, and we're looking forward to tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Thank you.
Back when I made the growing a Christian community remark, which I'm still doing, that I used the word apology, and ever since then it's been, I apologized for saying that. I never said that. I apologized for making people feel bad. And now I realized I'm in that same quandary again. So you members of the press understand this. I am apologizing for not picking up the phone and calling Jesse and calling Emmett and saying, let's sit down and talk. I am not apologizing for anything else. That doesn't mean I'm saying I'm absolutely right in everything else. I just don't want to have to pick up the paper for the next 10 years and see where he apologized. I didn't. I apologized to these two guys for not picking up the phone. Now, we've picked up the phone. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing. The things we do agree on. We agree that we want to preserve the character of our neighborhoods being integrated. We want to stay the most integrated city in California, meaning our neighborhoods are integrated. We don't want to see this community divided up into a black section, a brown section, and a white section, which every other city in America has done. We want to do something that's never been done before. And so we're going to form this working group. It's going to be a working group. When we discussed how the formation of it was going to occur, it was each of us can veto, has a veto right to veto anybody if they don't think that person's going to work. We want extremely productive people that share that value. The other value being, we want our children safe. Above all else, the thing we agree with the most is our children need to grow up in a safe, healthy environment. I think that's best accomplished by all of us working together and all of us having real empowerment in how that is accomplished. The blood story is a good story because what I didn't tell people is that our research indicates that when children see gang members around them, they become frightened. That fear will eventually drive them into a gang. And so we want gang members to stop being able to advertise their presence. That's why we got rid of the graffiti that fast. There is no advertising of gangs in this community. The pit bulls had the same effect. It was frightening children. Their hypervigilance level was through the roof. And so in order to feel safe, we were driving them into the gangs by failing to give them a safe community. But I didn't tell anybody that. I just said, don't wear red. And everybody, because we're going after the Bloods. Well, everybody knows that the Bloods are an African-American group, right? It looked, I mean, I didn't see it that way until Jesse told me. And as soon as he said it, I thought, oh, yeah, I guess that would be perceived that way. With this group, those mistakes aren't going to be made. What I've really attempted to accomplish is to empower as much of this community that wants to get involved as possible. You know, there was a planning commission of 5 people 4 years ago. We now have, what, 4, 5 commissions of 7 people each, all of whom are within their sphere of empowerment, are left alone. Whatever they want, that's what I do. This is becoming the most citizen-empowered city that I'm aware of. And the only way we continue to do that is to make sure everybody feels like if they want a voice, they can have a voice. And I think that's really what we want to accomplish. I'm looking forward to working with these guys. They're good men, they're bright men, and we seem to want the same thing.
I mean, I don't think anyone would have imagined us at this point being together, sitting at a table with the mayor based on what we've been through in the past. And I think this is a significant accomplishment in terms of just being able to get here. You know, are we like, you know, kumbaya? I don't think we're there yet, by no means, right? But the reality is that the community needs to see that, you know, we're going to start working productively to make sure that things change in our community and change for the better. And oftentimes you sit down with the person who's in the position of power to make those changes happen and try to work out a way to make that happen so that it benefits everybody. And I think that's what this step is today. And I think we're moving towards that with this press conference and the work group that we're about to put together in a few days.
What is the crux of the agreement? What did you come up with that has stopped the division? Mayor?
Well, fair question. We've agreed to disagree. I have not changed my view of how Section 8 is being administered by the Los Angeles County Housing Authority. The view has not changed at all. I don't think their view has changed at all in regards to how the investigations were being done. The one thing we all agree on is that we're not going to be concerned about politically correct answers. We're going to continue to be asking hard questions. You know, in science, it's either true or it's false. There's no such thing as political correctness. That is how I've attempted to lead this city. It's either true or it's false. Now, the way I communicate that is oftentimes harsh. And so before everybody can get on board, people are being divided. And I'm hoping that this will give me more input as to how to say things. But I'm never going to deviate. If it's true, I'm going to say it. And if I believe it's false, I will say that too. What does that mean? It means that the numbers are what they are. And I don't think Jesse has any disagreement or Emmett has any disagreement that there's problems out there that need to be solved. We're just going to find better ways to solve them.
I believe in addition to where the mayor is at, because we're always, there will always be opportunities for us to agree to disagree and resolve those issues. But I think what's fair and important to everyone here, which the mayor has agreed, we're all going to ensure that the laws, that as they are stated, that we're all playing to the game of following the laws. So if the law says that we should all be a part of equal opportunity in housing and whatnot, that's the law. And none of us are in disagreement in terms of our ability to be able to ensure that we're all following the law. And so I think that is important to all of us, including the mayor, who has agreed that we're all playing the same game in terms of ensuring that we're following the law, which says if there must be equal opportunity in housing, then we're going to make sure that happens.
Okay, well, before we get to you, I don't think that the mayor has ever said the city does not comply with the law. So is it following the law that's the issue, or is it the issue of civil rights, discrimination? Is that the bigger issue that we're looking at here?
Well, I'm not saying that that the mayor has said that he was not following the law. What I'm simply saying is that many of the complaints dealt with what people allege was discrimination. What we have agreed to is that we're going to follow the law and ensure that if we're following the law and it deals with discrimination, it deals with other things, then we're going to address those issues and address with them fairly and appropriately based upon what the law states.
Are you going to address the issue of the Section 8 violators? Is the committee going to work on that? The county has basically just said we can't do anything about it. Are you going to address the violators, the fraud? Or is that just...
You're asking the wrong person.
Okay.
I am the leader of this city, and we will follow the law from beginning to end. And we have not given up on any violations of the law from anyone. The level of sensitivity that we enforce those laws, I think, was sometimes lacking. What I mean by that is I think mistakes were made. Interestingly enough, I don't think they were made in Lancaster. I was going to say it. It's, you know, the almost all of the real complaints alleged occurred south of it. That might have just been fortuitous. I don't know. I don't think that, and they can speak for themselves, I don't think that Emmett and I don't think that Jesse thinks anybody should be able to commit Section 8 fraud. I think that they do believe that it should be enforced in a manner that does not make law-abiding people feel threatened. And I think they're correct that that did occur. I think a lot of law-abiding people were afraid and didn't need to be.
So at the end of the day, it sounds to me like what you folks have come up with is you haven't reached an agreement on your disagreements, but you're willing to set this lawsuit business aside and go into the boardroom or whatever room and come up with a committee, and you're willing to hash it out and talk it out and come up with working agreements on your own. Is that it?
Yes, and I think once it became clear to everybody, what were we talking about? We were talking about 2 or 3% tops of all of the Section 8 recipients being a problem. And I wasn't clear enough on that to people, that this is a very small percentage of this population base that are a problem. And it's the same of every population base. Those percentages seem to remain constant. If we go to Harvard Law School, their enforcement problems are going to be 2 to 3% of the students. I mean, that's just the way the science seems to break down. I still think that we need more aggressive enforcement. They may not. You know, we just decided to put that issue aside.
But that issue will be addressed because enforcement has been a problem with the NAACP in terms of how it has been used. And I believe the NAACP feels like the enforcement issue has been used to bully African Americans and to bully.
Let me speak on that for a second.
Correct?
Okay, this is from my perspective. From my perspective, in this whole situation, what was happening was it was kind of like a sweep. Section 8 authority was going in to check on compliance, and they were bringing along probation and sheriffs to find out whether or not we could just sweep this whole area. So if they couldn't find you on Section 8, they pick you up on a probation sweep. That's what was happening up here. This is what we were always against. This is what we were trying to straighten out. It is working. We have the ear, the sheriffs in both departments that say, yes, we're not going to do that any longer. If it's a Section 8 compliance, it'll just be Section 8. The only time they will call us is if they have something else that they need to have dealt with. But before that, it was almost, my saying was this: one vehicle, all departments. So they would all get into one vehicle, and they would all go to this address, and they would all say, well, if we can't get you on this, we're going to get you on that. That was the crux of this whole thing. That has stopped. That is what we were here to do, and that's what we have done. We have stopped that. Now, the mayor has... I beg your pardon?
Is that the crux of the lawsuit?
That was not the crux of the lawsuit. The lawsuit will be dealt with the attorneys because they're the ones that spoke on that. Jesse will speak on that, but I will say to you this. The important thing was what was happening in the community and how the people felt. They felt like they were being ridiculed and they were being abused, and that has pretty much come to an end. That was my general purpose in all of this, okay? So I know you're going to ask other questions, but just for your clarity, that particular situation has stopped.
Those of you who have followed us from this lawsuit from day one, we've made it clear in terms of where we felt our concern was. I think the mayor was absolutely right that there was a segment of individuals who had dealt with Section 8, and they were focusing on that fraud, and they were focusing on people who were abusing it. And our concern, in fact, was that you don't put everybody in the same battle, in the same group. And perception is key. That's why I started off with the press statement that the perception is key. How people perceive what the city was doing, and how we perceived what the city was doing was very important. And that's why the dialogue is now. When we talk about an agreement, I don't think that there's a simple way to say, you know what, yeah, we agree. Section 8, the issue of Section 8 has been resolved. I don't think it's been technically resolved because Section 8 exists. But the way in which it has been carried out is what we've been addressing. And I think that's what the mayor is saying today. The way in which we're carrying out, he may have a different perception of dealing with it. We may have a different perception of dealing with it. But when we come together with this work group and we begin to address ways to say, what's the best way to address this Section 8 problem? We do it together as a community and not as individuals who believe, you know what, this is how I perceive these people. This is how no, we're one community, and we want to be able to say, look, if you're violating Section 8, Emmett has said it on more than one occasion, you know, we're the number one, we're right behind law enforcement to say, if you're going to violate Section 8, you don't deserve to have it. But there are innocent people who have been caught up in the process, unfortunately, that have been looped into this process, and they're the ones who have been hurting, and that's really why we started this process to say, look, innocent people are being hurt by this, and this is why we need to address it.
In this city, what we're going to do is we're going to figure out a way so that all of our neighborhoods, if they have that problem, the neighborhood will be empowered to deal with it and to bring in our resources to help if they need it. We have gotten so far away from neighborhoods taking care of each other that we now have kids threatening to shoot adults, and the adults going along with it. That is insanity. And all of us know that that's insanity. But it is also insane for me to believe that I can have a city run by a bunch of rich, fat, white guys that is going to that's going to make everyone else feel like they're welcome to come share their problems. That was a problem we had. When we get right down to it, we all want the same thing. We want a community where our children will thrive. I think we can create that here. I think that if we bring everybody to the table that wants to be at the table, we can make that happen. Because none of us like bullies. And I want to tell you a story about what happened this morning. This morning I'm in a court I would never be in, except that the person was close to me that wanted me to get something there. And most of the people there were appearing pro per. And I watched that guy in that row treat them with such terrible disrespect in every voice tone, in every look, and the way he pointed. But the record was so clear that he didn't do anything wrong. And I could see what everyone's talking about. It's not that we want different things. It's that we want him to be treated with the respect all of us deserve by the people in authority when they do it. And we've got a lot of work to do that when we can't even have it in our own courtrooms. I left that courtroom ashamed that that was the Lancaster courthouse. And I was even further ashamed that that has become such a way of dealing with people that they would do it in front of the mayor. I mean, he didn't even know he was doing anything wrong. We have to do better. And I think that one of the ways to start doing better is to make certain that all of us are there. All of us have a voice in how, and that we not be afraid to say it. Just because I'm the mayor, if I'm treating people disrespectfully, you should be able to say it. And when a judge treats people disrespectfully, we should say it. Same with the police officers. And all of us agree that we in this city are going to be law-abiding, we're going to be safe, we're not going to have robberies, we're not going to have burglaries, we're not going to have things other cities have, but we will treat each other as human beings when we enforce those laws. I think that once we just started doing that, we would be so much better off.
So the bottom line is, when white folks in this community who are terribly afraid of you,
Well, I'm telling them, stop being afraid. They just talk bad.
and when African Americans who have the perception of the mayor and they're afraid of the mayor, are you saying when they come to this committee with their issues, whether, let's just keep it on Section 8, about Section 80, that they will have a fair shot and they will be heard and they will not have to feel intimidated? Their voices will be heard?
Yeah, and that's what this has always been about. That what you're articulating here is not something new. And I appreciate the spirit in which you're asking that question, but that has been our issue from day one. We're at this table today because Section 8 people came and said, we believe we're being treated wrong. We believe we're being targeted. That's what brought us here. Those same individuals, those same people who you just talked about have come to me as well. I'm sure they've come to Emmett and Nigel and Farrah and Cynthia have said the same issues. Look, we want to be able to walk safely down the street without having to worry about somebody attacking us. So we want to be able to apply for Section 8 and that we've addressed those issues. That's the purpose of the work group.
We're going to be transparent with our disagreements and with our agreements. I am not afraid to let the community know and the press know, and neither are these two guys afraid to let everybody know what's still in dispute and what's not. We're not here to spin this thing.
So what's still in dispute? What's still in dispute?
It's still, we have disagreements as to how Section 8 is being administered. Now, the lawyers on the other side made it clear to me, and I think they were right, that I could have been much better of targeting my comments to the administration of Section 8 instead of the bottom rung, which would be the recipients. Okay? I still think that because of the way Section 8 is broke down demographically, that we should pay more attention, that it be dispersed evenly. Now, whether the people of this community like it or not, we need that money from Section 8. Now, make no mistake about it. 97% of the people that are getting Section 8 are benefiting this community. Make no mistake about that. It is just that small percentage. How do we deal with that? Now, I also
understand there's still, in your opinion, there are still too many African Americans that are benefiting from Section 8 versus Hispanics and maybe whites.
I think that because of the demographic breakdown of Section 8 in Los Angeles County, that you end up sorting our neighborhoods, all right? Every African American group I met, I always ask, is there anybody here who wants to live in an all-black community? One, maybe two people will raise their hand. Anybody here wants to live in an all-white community? And white folks, one or two people? I think we all see the value of diverse neighborhoods. Rich, poor, middle class, doesn't matter. I think they're more vibrant. I think we live a better life if it's diverse. But diversity means diversity. It means it's balanced. If we start putting one demographic in one section of town, we all know what that leads to. It leads to slums eventually. We can't do that. Now, Section 8 disagrees with me, the administration, that they say it should be fair choice. I disagree. I think it needs to be balanced. I think there should be, if we're going to have Section 8 in this community, there should be a Section 8 house in my neighborhood. I think it should be in Beverly Hills. I think that for this program to really work, you need to pay attention to race instead of acting like it doesn't exist.
Mayor Rex Parris has extended out his hand and said, I am willing now to work with the community. And that's what this is about. We're working with the community. Do we have all the answers at this table? Not currently. Is this a work in progress? You bet. Do we have a name for the committee? Well, maybe it'll be a lottery. I don't know. But the problem, what we're doing here today is let everyone know that progress has been made, that the mayor has reached out and said, well, maybe I wasn't viewing this in a perspective that I should have been. His paradigm has changed, and our paradigm has changed, and that's why we're at this table, to make progress within the city of Lancaster and the Antelope Valley. And I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here to say I am pleased, tickled pink, that we are here to make this progress, because that's what this is about. And I thank you.
Following the execution of this agreement, the parties shall conduct a joint press conference to announce the amicable resolution of the action. That's what we just did. The city shall be represented at the press conference by Mayor Rex Parris, who will state, I'm stating it now, that so long as I am mayor, I guarantee the city will continue to abide by federal, state, local laws requiring for housing opportunities for all people, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, or source of income. Plaintiffs, that's all I have to do.
Thank you.